Some time ago, I'm not exactly sure, 100 years or so, a girl, a woman really, she was 21, and pretty, so still to everyone she knew, a girl, left home to see the city and find a job. The city wasn't much as cities go. She hadn't thought what kind of job. She didn't really know. She didn't really care that much, just something in a different place that didn't have a single person, one familiar face, one relative to come and take her back. She hadn't even taken time to pack. She left behind her things, a pair of shoes, her favorite dress, her winter coat. She'd left it all behind so they would have to guess where she might be and look for her at home, around the farm. She'd never much been someone who would roam too far beyond the cornfields or the wheat. They'd noticed she was missing when they all sat down to eat. By then, the open bus that came by once a week and had a seat for her, by then had taken her away from them forever. They wouldn't find her anywhere, not ever. If I could see her, just if I could talk to her that day, and sit across the aisle while the bus was on its way, if I could travel back in time somehow to say hello, that day she chose to leave her things and go alone, if I could talk to her and tell her that she'd be all right, or mostly, that she'd done the right thing, she would see in several years, she'd know it was the right thing, and she'd look at me and see her brother's face a little, dimples, and a smile that bends a little crooked on the left. We'd talk a while. If I could tell her that she'd be my grandmother, and this was right, to run away, and she would be all right, for now. The bus would take her to a train, and then the train would take her on to where she needn't bother to explain the reason that she'd left. She had the address of a place for single girls she'd gotten, and another, just in case. Well, single women, all from out of town. She got there as the sun was coming down and worked her courage up to ring the bell. An older woman answered, looked her up and down, and she could tell that she was being judged, that even here, a place for girls like her, she might not be the kind of boarder someone might prefer. But not a single thought of why it had to be this way, just this was how it was. The woman asked how long she'd stay, and had she had some dinner. There was meatloaf still to eat, potatoes maybe. Come inside and join us. You can meet the other girls. Tomorrow I can help you find some work. A little something, just an office clerk. Come in. And so she stayed a year or two, and made some friends along the way, as people do. But slowly, in a city somehow, trust was hard to find. One other girl was genuinely kind. She'd grown up milking cows and tending sheep. And every night before they went to sleep, the two of them would talk and talk, remembering and hoping and trying not to be so homesick, coping and happy just to have a friend. And every now and then, the one of them would say a word or two about the men, the ones she worked with, also friendly, thoughtful, and polite. Sometimes too much, it seemed. And she would think about them every night, and one especially. At first, she'd said she'd been afraid of everything about him, but one afternoon he'd stayed a little after 5 and chatted, pleasantries. Hello. Could we have dinner sometime? There's a place I like to go. It isn't very far. They have a garden in the rear. The evenings are so nice this time of year. And this is where I'd travel back in time again to find her. This man that she would marry, leaving everything she'd known behind her. This man. She'd give him children soon. There'd be 2 daughters and a brother, and one of them would run away from him one day, my mother. The son would die at 17, too drunk to drive. This man who'd grown up dirt poor, and he kept himself alive by clutching every penny till the Indian on it wept, and no one got a dime of what he kept until he died. My mother left and turned her back. just like her mother had. She hadn't stopped to pack, just like her mother. One day she was gone. My grandmother. He beat her sometimes. How she carried on, or even why. She thought she didn't have the right to leave, this girl who'd left before. What happened? How did she believe he had a power over her? She couldn't say goodbye. She had to wait until the day he'd die. And if I could travel back in time to find her, then I might. To tell her that she didn't have to stay. She had the right to leave and take her children. I don't know where they would go, so maybe I would go back further then, to let her know that when he asks to marry her, to tell him no. Although, if she did that, then I'd be someone else, I guess. I'm only here because she told him yes. There's one more thing. The other girl, her friend, it's funny sometimes how these stories end. Her daughter had a daughter, and I met her early on in life. We didn't know. They told us when I married her. My wife.